Hey everyone, welcome to today's deep dive. We're getting into the science behind your beauty routine, something I know a lot of you have been requesting.
Yeah.
So we're going to be tackling those long ingredient lists, decoding marketing jargon, and uncovering what really makes a product effective.
Yeah, it's a fascinating area, and honestly, there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Absolutely. I think we've all fallen victim to some beauty myths at some point,
Mm.
right? Like the idea that natural automatically means better.
Oh, absolutely. It's interesting because while nature does offer some incredible ingredients, natural doesn't always equal safe. Did you know that lead and asbestos were once used in beauty products?
Wow.
And those are naturally occurring substances.
No way. See, this is exactly what I mean about needing a deep dive. You think you're making good choices, but there's so much more to it.
Right. A good rule of thumb, I think, when you're looking at products is to prioritize understanding an ingredient's concentration and its potential effects based on actual scientific research, rather than just focusing on whether it's natural or synthetic.
That's a really good takeaway. I'm definitely guilty of getting caught up in the natural hype. And what about all those products claiming to be chemical-free? That's got to be a marketing tactic, right?
Definitely. It's impossible to have a chemical-free product. Everything around us, even water, is made up of chemicals. It's the dose and our exposure to specific chemicals that really matter, not their mere presence.
That makes total sense. I've often felt overwhelmed by those long ingredient lists. Like, am I supposed to be a chemist to understand this? And
Yeah.
don't even get me started on those ingredient scanning apps. I've definitely gone down that rabbit hole before.
I hear you. Those apps can be misleading because they often flag an ingredient as potentially harmful without taking into account the concentration in the product or how it's used in the formula.
So how can we be sure what information is reliable?
One example is propylparaben. You might see it flagged on an app, but what they don't tell you is that the recommended use levels for propylparaben actually have a huge margin of safety built in. It's all about context.
Okay, so maybe ditching the app and sticking with reputable brands is a good starting point. But then what about all those claims brands use like salon strengths or clinically proven? How much of that is just clever marketing?
That's a great question, and it's where things get even trickier. It all comes down to understanding the difference between a cosmetic claim and a drug claim.
So a product can say it like reduces wrinkles, but it can't actually claim to boost collagen.
Exactly. They have to be very careful with their wording to stay within those regulations because cosmetic products are only allowed to claim they change your appearance, not how your skin or hair actually functions.
Oh, I've totally fallen for that. One time I bought this serum because it promised to make my skin glow from within. Let's just say the only glow was from the shimmer they added to the bottle.
Yeah, you do have to be careful, and I'd say be especially wary of the term clinically proven. There are actually lots of different types of product testing, and clinically proven doesn't always mean what you think.
Okay, so how can we tell? If a product is truly backed by solid science, what should we be looking for?
Look for products that clearly state the ingredients that have been independently studied and proving to be effective for the specific concern you're targeting. And it's not just about the ingredients themselves, but also pay close attention to the type of testing that's been done. For example, a clinical trial where they test the actual product on human volunteers is going to be much more reliable than just an ingredient claim based on how one ingredient performed in a completely different formula.
So a study that says 95% of users saw less breakage would be more reliable than a product that just says contains an ingredient shown to strengthen hair.
Exactly, you got it. The overall formulation can make a huge difference in how an ingredient works, whether it's helping it penetrate deeper into the skin or even just preventing it from breaking down too quickly.
This is so helpful, it's good like decoding a secret language. Okay, so we've debunked some myths and we're starting to understand the language of beauty products. Now let's get into the science behind some specific products, starting with skincare. How does anything actually get past our skin barrier to make a difference? Isn't our skin designed to keep things out?
It is. The skin's outermost layer, the stratum corneum, is a pretty tough barrier. Think of it like a brick wall. It's made up of these flattened dead skin cells, those are the bricks, and then lipids, which are kind of like the mortar that hold it all together. But there are ways for ingredients to get through that barrier.
The stratum corneum, that's the outermost layer of our skin, right?
Yeah.
What makes it such a tough barrier?
Right, it's the outermost layer, the epidermis, and it's constantly renewing itself, which helps to keep our skin healthy and protected. But this structure, this brick wall, also makes it a bit tricky for skincare ingredients to penetrate deeply.
So it's not just about a product being strong enough to penetrate.
Not necessarily. Sometimes ingredients are actually modified to make them smaller and more likely to penetrate. We call those derivatives. For example, you'll often see vitamin C derivatives or vitamin A derivatives in skincare. And they're designed to be more easily absorbed by the skin and to be more stable once they're in there.
That's fascinating. So they're kind of like tiny delivery systems for those powerful ingredients. I've always wondered about DIY skincare. Is that actually effective, or are we just slathering avocado on our faces for fun?
Well, there are some beneficial ingredients found naturally in things like yogurt, honey, or avocado, but the concentrations are usually too low to make a real difference when we're talking about things like anti-aging or tackling specific skin concerns. Plus, homemade products lack the precise formulations and, importantly, preservatives that commercial products have, which are essential for ensuring they're safe and effective.
So you're saying my kitchen isn't a certified lab after all?
Not quite. The biggest risk with DIY skincare, honestly, is the potential for irritation and infection from bacteria. Homemade concoctions just don't have the preservatives to keep them safe over time.
Good point. I'd rather not risk it.
Yeah.
Speaking of safety, we have to talk about sunscreen. It seems like there's a lot of conflicting information out there about SPF, UVA versus UVB, chemical versus mineral. Can you break it down for us?
Absolutely. Let's start with the basics. Both UVA and UVB rays from the sun can damage our skin. Now, SPF, or sun protection factor, measures how well a sunscreen protects you from the burning rays, which are mostly UVB. But we can't forget about UVA rays, which actually penetrate deeper into the skin and contribute to things like wrinkles and age spots over time.
So even those with darker skin tones who don't burn easily still need to wear sunscreen.
Absolutely. Well, melanin, which gives our skin its color, does provide some natural protection. It's not enough on its own. People with darker skin tones are still susceptible to sun damage, hyperpigmentation, and even skin cancer. So sun protection is crucial for everyone.
Got it. Now, what about the different types of sunscreen, chemical versus mineral? What's the difference there?
It comes down to how they work. Both chemical and mineral sunscreens actually work by absorbing UV radiation and converting it to heat, which prevents it from penetrating the skin.
That's interesting. So they both essentially neutralize the UV rays, just in slightly different ways.
Exactly. Chemical sunscreens use filters that absorb UV rays and release heat through a chemical reaction, while mineral sunscreens, which typically contain ingredients like zinc oxide or titanium dioxide, create a physical barrier on the skin that blocks and reflects UV rays.
This is so much clearer now. I feel like I can actually make informed choices about sunscreen now. Okay, shifting gears to hair care. How do those products work on a molecular level? It's amazing how much we can change our hair with the right products.
Hair is fascinating. It's mostly made up of a protein called keratin, and it's held together by these different types of bonds, like hydrogen bonds, salt bonds, and disulfide bonds. These bonds are what give hair its shape and strength.
So when we use hair products, are we essentially manipulating those bonds?
Exactly. For instance, chemical treatments like perming or straightening work by breaking the stronger bonds in the hair and then reforming them to change the hair's shape more permanently. And then heat styling, like when you use a curling iron or straightener, uses heat to temporarily break the weaker bonds in the hair, allowing you to change its shape in the moment. Those bonds reform as the hair cools, holding that new style, but obviously it's not permanent.
That makes so much sense. So that's why my curls bounce back after I wash my hair. The bonds just revert to their natural state.
Precisely.
What about makeup? Are there any ingredients we should be avoiding, especially around our eyes?
That's a great question. There are definitely a few ingredients that get a lot of attention. For example, talc has been in the news because of potential asbestos contamination in the past, but it's important to note that cosmetic-grade talc, which is used in makeup, is required to be asbestos-free by regulatory agencies.
That's reassuring to know. And what about those forever chemicals, PFAS, that seem to be in everything these days? Are those a concern in makeup?
PFAS have been found in some makeup products, yes, typically in very small amounts. While research is still ongoing, the bigger concern with PFAS is actually from dietary exposure and environmental contamination, but it's definitely something to be aware of and to consider when choosing makeup products.
So maybe check the labels and look for brands that prioritize ingredient transparency and safety.
Absolutely.
This has been so eye-opening. Thank you for sharing your expertise. I feel like I can finally make smarter choices about my beauty routine.
You're welcome. It's all about being an informed consumer and understanding the science behind what you're using, which it sounds like you're well on your way to doing.
This has been amazing. I feel like we've covered so much ground. From debunking myths to breaking down the science behind how products actually work.
Yeah, it's been great to dive into these details with you.
So as we wrap up, what does this all mean for us as consumers? How can we take all this knowledge and actually apply it to our own routines?
I think the biggest takeaway is to be an informed consumer. Don't just buy into the hype. Really take the time to look at the ingredient list, consider the type of product testing that's been done, and perhaps most importantly, remember that everyone's skin and hair are unique. What works wonders for one person might not do a thing for another.
That's so true. It's all about finding what works best for your individual needs. Almost like personalized medicine, but for beauty.
I love that analogy. And here's another interesting thought to leave you with. Just as our understanding of skin and hair science is constantly evolving, so are beauty standards themselves. What's considered beautiful today might be completely different in a few years.
It's true. Just think about how much trends have changed even in the past decade.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what the future holds for beauty science.
It's a fascinating question to consider. As technology advances and our understanding of the molecular mechanisms behind skin and hair aging deepens, who knows what kind of innovations we'll see? Maybe we'll have personalized products tailored to our unique genetic makeup, or even entirely new ways of approaching beauty and aging that we haven't even imagined yet.
Wow, that's incredible. It seems like the possibilities are truly endless.
They really are, and that's what makes this field so exciting. There's always something new to learn and explore.
Well, thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new appreciation for the science behind beauty and the tools to make smarter choices.
My pleasure. I hope this empowers you to feel more confident in navigating the world of beauty products. Remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to our skin and hair.
And on that note, this deep dive has come to an end. But keep those questions and those beauty product labels coming. Until next time, happy experimenting.